President Vladimir Putin has said he believes a deal can be reached to free Evan Gershkovich, a U.S. reporter detained last year in Russia. Speaking with U.S. host Tucker Carlson, Mr. Putin said talks were ongoing with the U.S. about the journalist, who is being held on espionage charges. In the interview, Putin held forth on Ukraine, U.S. presidents, and the CIA. It's the first time the Russian leader has sat down with a Western journalist since Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022. Mr. Putin said he believed a deal could be struck to release Mr. Gershkovich, 32. If our partners take reciprocal steps. The special services are in contact with one another. They are talking. I believe an agreement can be reached. Mr. Gershkovich, a reporter for the Wall Street Journal, was arrested in the city of Ekaterinburg, about 1,600 kilometers 1,000 miles east of Moscow, on March 29 last year. In January, Russia again extended his pre-trial detention until the end of March. He faces up to 20 years in prison if found guilty. Mr. Carlson asked Mr. Putin if he would be willing to release the reporter immediately, and said, "We'll bring him back to the United States." But the Russian president insisted that Mr. Gershkovich, who has not yet been tried, had received classified information, and hinted as to who Russia would accept in a prisoner exchange. Mr. Putin mentioned a person, due to patriotic sentiments, who eliminated a bandit in one of the European capitals during the events in the Caucasus. It was almost certainly a reference to Vadim Krasakov, an FSB assassin currently in prison in Germany after shooting dead a Georgian military officer, Zelimkin Kangashvili, in a Berlin park in 2019. The interview, more than 2 hours long, was filmed in Moscow on Tuesday. It began with a question about Mr. Putin's reason for ordering the invasion of Ukraine 2 years ago. "Tell us why you believe the United States might strike Russia out of the blue," Mr. Carlson asked. "How did you conclude that?" "It's not that America, the United States, was going to launch a surprise strike on Russia," Mr. Putin said through a translator. "I didn't say that. Are we having a talk show or a serious conversation? What does Putin gain from Tucker Carlson interview?" The former Fox star interviewing Vladimir Putin, Mr. Putin, then spoke at length more than half an hour about the history of Eastern Europe, beginning with the establishment of the Russian state in the 9th century. Mr. Putin repeated his various justifications for the invasion, including well-worn falsehoods about the history of Ukraine, his historical grievances about the breakup of the Soviet Union and NATO expansion, and his claim that Ukraine is riddled with neo-Nazis. He also talked at length about the start of the invasion, repeating false claims that Russia did not attack Ukraine. Moscow, according to Putin, was just responding to threats to its national security. Mr. Carlson did not ask about alleged war crimes committed by Russian soldiers in Bucha or elsewhere, the forced removal of Ukrainian children to Russia, which resulted in an international criminal court arrest warrant being issued for Mr. Putin, the deaths of political rivals, or the jailing of opposition leader Alexei Navalny. Mr. Putin, for his part, insisted that Russia had no interest in invading Poland, Latvia, or other NATO countries, calling such a scenario absolutely out of the question. The Russian leader also discussed his relationship with American presidents, repeating a story he has previously mentioned about Bill Clinton suggesting that Russia could join NATO, only to withdraw the option shortly afterwards. He said he had enjoyed a very good relationship with George W. Bush. He was no worse than any other American or Russian or European politician, Mr. Putin said. "I assure you he understood what he was doing as well as others. I had such a personal relationship with Trump as well." Mr. Putin said he did not recall the last time he spoke to President Joe Biden. Before the interview, Mr. Carlson claimed not a single Western journalist has bothered to interview Mr. Putin since 2022.